I'll call to order the Tuesday, August 27th Planning and Zoning meeting. It's now 7 o'clock, and if everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Rudy.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Here.
Vice Chair Heck.
Present.
Commissioner Howard.
Here.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Here.
Commissioner McGraw.
Here.
Chairwoman Messer.
Present.
Commissioner Woolley.
Here.
7 present, we have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I, consideration and approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call vote, please, Rudy?
Commissioner Woolley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Yes.
Commissioner Heck.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
Chairwoman Messer.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair.
We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Consideration and approval of the August 8th, 2019 special meeting minutes. Do you want these separately, Rudy? Okay.
No, we've done them together.
And the August 13th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the minutes from the August 13th, 2019 regular meeting and the August 8th, 2019 special meeting.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Chairwoman Messer.
Yes.
Commissioner Woolley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
No.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
6 in favor, so moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have two public hearings, and the first is the presentation, discussion, public hearing, and consideration of proposed amendments to Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Chapter 1, Zoning Code, Article 1-13, Design Standards, creating Section 1-13-4, Art in Public and Private Development.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Commissioners. Heather Patel with Development Services. Let's see, what am I doing here? Sorry. Okay, so this evening we're going to be talking about public art. This presentation is very similar to what we saw 2 weeks ago, but we'll go through it for people who missed it and the public. Putting together a public art program includes 3 different things, but tonight we're just going to be talking about Volume 2, Chapter 1, which allows for us to implement such a program and includes certain requirements for public art. This is our extensive timeline. After this evening's public hearing, we will be going before the City Council for 2 meetings, and hopefully in November have the commission seated. We are accepting applications right now. And then in January, get the program to start. What we are proposing under Volume 2, Chapter 1 is all based upon some community comparisons that we've completed. We've looked at several communities, and this document was shared with the commission. That shows what other communities in the valley and throughout the state are doing. We also took some input from a consultant that we hired some time back, as well as a lot of this stuff is based upon what we have been doing with development. There's a whole list of things that are included in this amendment, and we will just touch on a few of the things that have been brought up in the past. First, what projects would be applicable and where would public art be required? We have really 2 different categories. One is private projects and one are public projects. Public projects are projects that are capital improvement projects that the city will do. It was asked last meeting, for example, would the proposed dog park be an applicable project? Yes, it would. City project like a basic paving would not call into play this sort of thing. Projects are assessed based upon a few factors. So in private projects, it's 1% of the construction cost. And you can contribute to the fund or put it into the project itself. And we have a chart later that breaks that out. Based upon the square footage of the structure is how we determine the percentage that is put into public art, and the max is 100,000. So if you have a something that's 15,000 square feet, 1% of the construction cost, say that's a $15 million project. 1% is more than $100,000, so the investment or the fee would be maxed at $100,000. Other private projects, multifamily projects, this would be for 10 units or more. So if it was a duplex, it would not be applicable, and this would be 1% of the construction cost as well. Public projects, like I mentioned, city projects, if it's over $50,000, then it would come into play. Renovation projects, so if there's an existing structure or building and 50% or more of the area, floor area is renovated, then the 1% would come into play. This is our definition of what public art is. It is straight out of the document that you have in front of you. It does point out that it does have to have an artistic aspect to it. We are not just looking at projects doing things with grates or sunscreens or streetlights and calling it art. There has to be some artistic nature to it, definitely designed or created by a professional artist. This is our definition of an artist. We got this straight from our consultant who has done many of these and has worked in many communities that have programs like this. So it does have to be somebody who is recognized by peers or critics as a professional in the field, and they will have to show the work that they've done in maybe another community or another private project or whatever, something that's commissioned to show that they are in fact an artist. This is the breakdown that I talked about earlier. If, when calculating that 1%, if the total value of that is less than $50,000, we would suggest that not be put into actually putting art on the project, rather putting it into the in lieu of fund. So what that is projects of minimal value. They would just put the money into an account in lieu of fund, and then those funds would be used to do public art in a public place, for example, the roundabout. So we would pool that money at that time and then be able to spend it on a public project within a city's public area. If the value is between $50,000 and $5 million, then they could do any sort of a combination of that. They could put some on art on their project. They can put the balance in lieu of fund. Again, maximum $100,000. If a project is over $5 million, we recommend that they do at least put $50,000 into a piece of art on their project, and then anything over, again, maximum 100, would go into the in lieu of fund. This is, again, this chart that was handed out. So we have several communities that have only public projects funded through this type of program. We have several that have both private development and community or public projects. And then we have a few communities that don't have a program in place, or some that used to have a program but no longer, or some that are in the process of creating a program. So we've got a whole variety here, and it covers every aspect of this. So we are supposed to have a public hearing, but I did want to point out that I did receive an email with a couple comments, and so I wanted to share those. This person asked to clarify what are the funding options for public art. Specifically, would grants be available? So these are the typical ways that public art is funded in communities. Grants is one of them. It's not one of the higher ones. The majority is through a program such as this, where development invests and pays for art. The next question was, what can the money be used for? This is in the document before you. The response is 6B, and it does talk about all the different things that the money can go towards. It can go towards fabrication, site preparation, installation, the actual product itself, the sculpture or a mural, and then also maintenance, upkeep, as well as we would like plaques that identify who the artist is on each piece of art. So generally an art piece will have a name and then the artist. So those are all things that the funding could go towards. Like I said, our next thing in our process is to go before the City Council on September 3rd. And then we just have a public hearing this evening, and hopefully I can answer some questions.
I have two questions, because since I was unable to be here 2 weeks ago at the meeting, you may have already discussed some of this, but because I am involved with the art community, and some of the things that people were asking me, I have two basic questions. And one is your definition of artist. There's no problem with that definition, but and I just don't have, with all of this stuff that's in the ordinance, if somebody wants to donate a piece of artwork to the city, do they have to meet this standard of being an artist?
There is a section about donating art in here, but it primarily covers or goes the route of, say, you are a private developer, you built your project, you commissioned art. There is a process that it does have to go before the commission to be blessed. So at that time, you would have to prove that you are that artist. And then after a certain period of time, that artwork can be given to the city. And then that's where it would come into play as who would maintain it or whatever. But generally speaking, this ordinance does not cover someone who just comes in the door and says, we would like to give you this piece of art. The reason being is our consultant very specifically identified a community in the state of Arizona that received a lot of donated art, and there was never anything put into play for the maintenance, the upkeep, and so then it just sort of, they just had a lot, and it was never maintained, and so it just didn't look very good. And so her recommendation was that we simply not just receive or accept donations.
So you think that's are we saying that or not saying it, or is it just going to be left up to by chance if it comes up that we won't accept it, or?
I'm not recalling this ordinance specifically calling that out, but I could very well be wrong.
You know?
Oh, yes.
Go.
You have it?
Should we address that?
No, I think the intent of this ordinance is when there's going to be public art that's viewable in the right-of-way or in a private property. So if someone wants to donate it for that purpose, then I think it has to go through this process. But if it's just something that someone wants to donate out of the goodness of their heart, I don't think this process governs that. So it's like
So-
they want to get a tax write-off, for example.
Uh-huh.
That's a possibility. If they say, well, I'm donating this and the only place it can go is in the roundabout. Well, then no, then this process would govern it.
And then they would have to meet the requirement of
Absolutely.
being an artist and all of that.
Absolutely, because that's in the right of way.
Or even if it's somebody, just like the Kachina that was given to us. you
Correct,
know.
that's in the right of way also. So that's
So-
another place that the commission would be the one that says where things go. However, if someone just wants to donate it and they don't say, well, I want this to go in a particular place, that's different. And I think public grounds too, correct? Like if someone wanted something to go out in front of our building, this commission would be the one that decides what goes there, correct?
Mhm.
And so this policy would govern that.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
if you go to page 14, item number 2, the PAC shall determine the appropriate placement of arts commissioned or purchased under the Art and Private and Public Development Program, as well as arts accepted as gifts to the city. So the way I look at that is the commission would be the ultimate
Right.
determining factor as
Well, I
far as.
understand that, but I was just wondering.
I would, it almost sounds like it would be akin to a CUP as far as
Yeah.
how that is being addressed and accepted by the city.
The question that was asked of B was, did they, even if they went through the Arts Commission and said, we want to do a piece of art for the city, did they have to meet that definition of what an artist is? Because there's a lot of artists out there who, we have them in our community, who some of them are pretty good, but they might not meet that definition. So.
I think ultimately, yes. they
Okay,
would have
that
to
was
meet
the
that
question.
Yeah.
The other one was, and I don't know if it's answered in here, but this isn't applying to large residentials, neighborhoods, right? Or did that?
It is residential with 10 units
Okay,
or more.
I heard you say that, but I
Yes.
thought originally it was discussed that residential would not be, or am I mistaking that when we were first discussing this, that residential wouldn't come under, it was just for commercial?
I don't know what those conversations were with
Okay.
Larry doing the presentations. I just know that under the section that talks about, it's B, scope and applicability. It does talk about,
Hold on, we've got a technical problem.
Uh-oh. You don't look like Matthew. We working now?
Are yours working?
No,
Oh, no,
no, we can't, no, we don't have.
it's all gone.
okay.
We do
So
have
it-
audio, but we don't have video.
You have what?
Yeah, we
We
Not
do have audio, but we don't have video
audio and no
recording.
video?
Yeah.
Well, we got our books, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, Heather, because I just.
Yeah,
well,
no, I believe it is just multifamily. I
Yeah.
apologize, yes.
Oh,
Developers of any new multifamily buildings of 10 units or more.
okay, so it doesn't apply to a developer who's going to build 20 single-family dwellings, 200 of them or something.
Right. No,
And my question, and the question we had was, why not? They're a business just like any other. Why is private homes developers not having to pay 1%?
I don't know why it's not in here.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I thought we asked that be included.
Okay, well, like I said, I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, so I
I'm
didn't.
not sure if that was 2 weeks ago. I think that
It
was
was even further
prior.
back. yeah.
Well,
Before then.
we've discussed a lot,
Okay.
and I can't
I know,
remember
but I
everything.
thought we asked
Okay.
it to be included.
That was
Anyone
addressed.
else who was present at that? I mean,
Commissioner
Right.
Kreisler, you're referencing just single-family development?
Not the single-family dwelling. I'm talking like what's being asked about, like, say, a housing subdivision, say, like Kaufman Homes or something along those
Yeah.
lines. entrance into the development itself, or multiple entrances, say fountains, something decorative, that kind of thing. Both of us remembered that Larry had mentioned something along those lines. Just can't remember exactly what the details were.
Yeah.
I absolutely remember that as well within my conversations with Larry. Why I don't see that in here, I don't know.
I don't think, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't think it had to do with art per se. I think what it had to do was that the developer had to put something, a
He
playground
talked
or a
walls or
fountain or
things,
wall.
decorative walls.
But he wasn't requiring art for those kinds of areas that are being developed.
Commissioner Regro, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my question still boils down to, as a business, because that's what a residential neighborhood person is, he's still a business, why doesn't he have to pay 1% like a commercial business does? Is there any, Joel, is there any legal, why if one does and one business does, in other words, and another doesn't?
I think it was a policy thing that I think Larry got from a different city, so it's really a policy decision.
Okay.
He's out, he's been out for a while, so I'm sorry he's not here tonight, but,
Yeah.
so I don't have an answer for you on that. And if you want that included, then we can bring it back with that inclusion.
Madam Chair, just a bit of a background. Requiring art at single-family development is atypical all over the valley. When we took a look at comparison cities, none of the cities required single-family development to include art. And the argument that I've heard at other cities in the past from other developers is they rather allocate those funds towards amenities, pools, walls, architecture, things like that. So that's the justification there. Money that is used for art then is taken away from their budget for the actual development.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Steve?
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, as far as the 1%, that's a mandated cost?
So we do have a breakdown. It is a mandated fee, and the breakdown is, you guys can't see
We
this,
can't
right?
see it.
Where is it? Where it is. Okay, there we go. How they're assessed. So if it's a building that is under 5,000 square feet, the percentage is not going to be 1%, it's 0.25%. If it's between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet, it's 0.5%. A building over 10,000 square feet is 1%. So there is that variation there.
But it is.
It will be collected during the permit fee
And it maxes
phase.
100,000.
Because when I see contribution, to me, that reads donation. And my whole issue with this draft and with this code is the mandate itself. In theory, I like the whole thing, minus that. Minus
the word contribute?
No, minus the mandate.
Oh,
I would like to see a contribution factor added in, an incentive of some sort, to where people are willingly contributing instead of mandating it. And I know all these other cities that have been brought to us, they have that built in, but why do we have to do what everybody else is doing? Why can't we be the ones setting the standard and saying, hey, we're going to contribute, or we want you to make a contribution. We're going to incentivize this. We're going to give you a break on something because you're doing this for us. I think that makes us more inviting to business rather than saying you will pay this or you're not doing business here.
So what's the option if they don't, if they say they don't want
That
to?
remains to be seen, but to incentivize is what I'm kind of getting at. Let's work on something like that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
didn't the city council vote to do this, so we're actually following their direction? Aren't they the ones that make the choice?
Well, what they voted to do, if I may,
Yeah.
was create an art commission. And then the funding was also discussed, how it's being funded. No, they didn't say, hey, these are the details, because they want to get your recommendation. And I understand Mr. Kreidler's But to incentivize, you got to be careful with that word, because under Title IX, you can't just give out taxes saying, hey, we'll give you back 1% of your retail taxes. You can't do that anymore. You used to be able to do that, but the law changed. And you have to have a retail incentive development agreement to do that. You'd have to have an expert witness to show up to say that what you're getting back is actually, you're going to get more in return. It's a very involved process. It's under Title IX. So you can't give them tax relief. So I don't know what else you want to give them, and I don't know what you were thinking of.
And, well, that's just it. I don't know what's available. You know, that's what we have staff for, to figure that out, and that's what I would like to give back to them. Let's figure something out to make this look inviting to these businesses to come into town, to bring that source of revenue to the city.
Well, that's a policy decision that all you get to make. We're on a kind of a tough timeline on this to get the commission created. You won't see that part because that's just an ordinance that the council sees. However, you will see this, and I'm not working. Depends what you want to do collectively. If you want it to come back with some other ideas, or you can vote on it. It's up to you, as is. When is the next? It's on September 3rd for
Yes.
for council.
Mhm.
Yeah. So tonight is a vote on this with a public hearing. If
We're
you want
voting tonight?
It is a vote tonight? When?
There's no motion in here.
I'm sorry, it's a public hearing.
You know, it says consideration.
It's
but
consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
I
the
read
vote
that.
tonight.
But there's
So-
no motion or anything here.
Well, you'll have to make up one then.
Okay,
and that's-
we can do
yeah,
that.
That's fine.
We're good at making things up.
You are very good at making things up.
Thank you, I think.
That's why Peter and I were discussing that, and we were confused. Are we voting or not?
Right,
Because it
Yeah.
said consideration, but,
consideration.
well, I suppose that
So
can be part of a motion by anybody. Does it, any more discussion?
Madam Chair.
Okay, we got to have a public hearing.
Yeah, just to let you know, that is my only point of contention on this. The rest of it I'm pretty much good with,
Okay,
so.
that it? Thank you.
Sure.
Just don't go too far.
I won't. I'm going to sit right here.
And Madam Chair?
Yeah,
If you could take a brief
okay.
recess, because apparently something happened to the computer, and Mr. McNulty's here, and he might be able to fix it quickly.
And we're not getting recorded or taped or whatever?
Well, maybe
Come on, don't be afraid of us. Well, you're a future business owner, maybe. Okay, if the public doesn't, I'll close the public portion and open this up for any discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I don't agree with having any kind of charges against residential builders. I think that should be pulled out of there completely. The contribution for people trying to build homes, whether they be 10-unit dwellings or private residences and 200 in the lot, I don't think should have to fall underneath this.
but those aren't, that's what the thing is, she said, it's not residential, they're like apartment buildings.
Right.
So that's what you're talking,
Residential.
okay.
Anything
Residential.
that has to do with residential.
Duplexes, apartment buildings.
Right.
So you're saying any multifamily even should not be included?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yeah. Commercial should pay for it. I think that's a great idea. It would help this community greatly with the art take we're trying to put on this, but I don't think we should penalize any residential builders.
Okay. Anyone else? Comment?
I disagree. I disagree. I think anybody who is developing a multifamily unit is probably going to be a quasi landlord, and they are indeed classified as a business, so they should be contributing to the fund.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would tend to agree with apartments and
Yeah.
anything over 10.
10 or more
I
units?
think they are more like a business than a
Is
residential.
it 10 or more or over 10? I don't
10.
remember.
10 or more.
10.
Okay, I couldn't remember specifically. Willie, anything? Any thoughts?
I would agree with Shirley's comment.
Okay. Anybody?
I already
Anything?
said my piece.
You said yours, everybody? Okay. Is that it? You sure? Then I'll call for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the proposed amendments to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Chapter 1, Zoning Code, Article 1 through 13, Design Standards, and forward to the City Council,
We don't have
as
any,
stated.
we don't have any amendments or anything, just the code. Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote?
Commissioner McGraw,
No.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanshi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
No.
5 in favor, 2 against. The motion passes, Madam Chair. This will go on to council for discussion on September 3rd? September 3rd, Madam Chair.
Okay. We'll move on to our second presentation, which is a public hearing on case PZ-3-19, a proposed rezoning amendment of approximately 2.66 acres currently zoned B-1/PD.
Good evening, Commission. For the record, my name is Sidney Arias, planner here on staff. Tonight I'll be giving a presentation on Superstar Car Wash, PZ-319. The proposed project is located north of the northwest corner of Ironwood and Baseline. Current zoning is B1. What the applicant is proposing to do is amend a prior planned development that was approved in 2015 to facilitate a car wash user on the southern half of the site. Originally, in 2014-15, the north and southern half of the site was mirrored. Now, like I said, the applicant is proposing a car wash user on the southern half. Proposing entrances also off of Ironwood Drive and also a shared access agreement through the gasoline station. Here we have the overall site plan. The building sits east-west, and then we have a self-vacuuming parking stalls south of the building. Users could enter through Ironwood Drive, be queued in the lanes. It looks like we have 3 lanes there, and then enter the tunnel, and then proceed to vacuum their vehicles or vice versa. Here we have the proposed elevations. This elevation is from the southeastern part of the site. So we're looking at the cars coming out of the exit there, and then they would queue on this back end and then come over and vacuum. Here we have the traditional four elevations, southeast, west, and north. They're using a combination of split face block, smooth CMU block, stucco, and some canopies, some cloth canopies there. The applicant held, I believe, 3 meetings. They held their official formal meeting on July 17th of this year. A total of 9 people attended that meeting. The city also sent out public hearing notices noting the time and the proposed request, and staff hasn't received any comment from any of the neighbors or any of the surrounding development. With that said, staff is recommending approval of PZ 319, subject to the conditions found in your staff report. And the applicant is also here, and I believe that they would like to say a couple words.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Sydney?
Yes, I have some questions, Sydney. And this is not necessarily to this project, but there is a car wash that's planned for the corner of Southern and Idaho, and it's been there for about 1 or 2 years. Is that still an active project?
Commissioner Uli, about 2 months ago, I spoke to the applicant and the property owner, and according to them, it is still a active project, and they'd like to proceed on it before the end of the year.
So why do we need another car wash?
I think that's a better question for the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yep, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So, Cindy, this is a rezoning.
It's Commissioner Heck, it's an amendment to a prior approved plan development.
Okay.
So, like I said, really the only thing that they are changing is the southern half of the site. It's already been approved for the northern half. They're just proposing the car wash user on the southern half.
So these are 2 separate parcels. Has it always been that way?
Originally, it was 1 parcel, and now they're going to be split into 2.
So, okay, so back in 2014, what was approved, that was 1 parcel. Now we're asking that it be made into 2, divided into 2.
Commissioner Heck, that is correct.
All right.
They're not going to ask for access off of baseline.
No, they are not. No, there's already a chevron there.
Right, we know, but they asked for, the last people asked for access.
Well,
off
they're
of-
still showing cross-access, Madam Chair,
Are they?
to the,
Okay.
to the service station to the south.
That's correct.
And I believe that is part of a private agreement between the 2 property owners.
And that's acceptable?
Has that
Yes,
agreement
ma'am.
been executed?
Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Would the applicant wish to address us, please?
Jeff Bliley, 701 North 44th Street. I'm here pinch hitting for Paul Gilbert tonight, who's out of the country. As staff pointed out, what we're asking for, the zoning is it's not really a zoning change. The zoning allows this use; it's a permitted use. But because of the way that the previous project got approved with the site plan that was attached to the zoning, we're having to amend that site plan now to accommodate this use. So, had this site plan come in originally, it would have been a permitted use. So I just want to, it's kind of a nuance, but it's not really a zone change, but we're going through that same process. And I think, as everybody's aware, I'm not that familiar with the site, frankly, but I think it was originally zoned in 1997, and it sat vacant now for 22 years. So I think there's a letter from the current property owner who said he's tried to market the property for some of the uses that's been previously site planned and hasn't had much luck in finding any users. So our client is actually an active user and will be moving forward with the development of the site. Staff pointed out we have had a number of neighborhood meetings. We had kind of a pre-neighborhood meeting, and then we had a formal neighborhood meeting. We went out door to door with and knocked door to door with a number of the property owners directly adjacent and a couple rows from the site, just so we made sure everybody was aware of what we were doing. And I think when we had our first meeting, there was a number of people that showed up with some concern, and I think we've been able to assuage most of those concerns. We've made a number of modifications to the site plan, and I think by the fact that I don't know if there's anybody here tonight even speaking on it. We haven't had any comments, formal comments, since our last neighborhood meeting, and I think staff has said the same thing. So I think the modifications we've made to the site plan have been, I think, well received. I think the owner of the mobile home park is supporting the project, and so I think we've made some good progress there. The issues, as of course, that always come up with these type of uses is traffic and noise. We've had traffic studies done and noise studies done. The traffic for this particular use will generate actually a little bit less traffic than what the traffic would have been for the previous uses. I think previously you had some additional inline shops and you had another fast food type pad user. And so from a traffic standpoint, there's going to be no increased traffic over what was previously approved. Noise is always the biggest concern with car washes. And as you can see, we've oriented the site so that the end where the noise is always where the blowers are, where the dryers are. And so that's been oriented away from the neighborhoods. We've, in fact, redesigned the site a few times to push it as far as we could. We've even agreed to put in what is kind of cutting-edge technology as far as blowers go, and would be the quietest blowers you could possibly find on the market today to put in here. Our sound study has shown that the ambient noise from Ironwood, I believe it's Ironwood Drive, is about 20 decibels higher than the noise that we're generating. So this will have no added noise to the background noise that they're currently hearing adjacent, and would create no more noise than what would have been there had it been developed. So all the noise that they're hearing is really from Ironwood. Staff is recommending approval. I think, like I said, from our extensive neighborhood efforts, I think most everybody around us is supportive, or at least not unopposed. And we're here asking for your approval tonight and moving on to the City Council. And we're happy to answer any questions. I've got others here that can answer technical questions if you have them.
Right here on this site plan, you're just going to be developing the car wash on the south, correct?
That's correct. We'll be purchasing the south.
What you show up here, all the parking spaces and everything, you're not actually going to be putting that in?
No, ma'am.
Are you going to be paving the whole entire
We'll be paving.
post sections?
Yeah, we'll be paving. No, not both sections.
Okay,
We'll just be developing the south.
You're
half.
just going to, right now, the rest of it will stay desert as it is right now? Okay. I was just wondering why it was showing it being improved if it wasn't going to be improved.
Well, I think it's the way it works, is you already have a site plan that's
Yeah.
attached to it, so we had to
Right.
show how the rest of the site will ultimately develop.
But we don't know that that's actually what will happen, though.
It will, unless they come in and do what we're doing today.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
so you guys don't have a vested interest for anything north of this?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Seeing how you're not going to be developing the north portion, that deceleration lane that's in there coming off of Ironwood, are you still going to be handling that, or how is that going to work out?
I assume so, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming we're doing that, yes.
Okay, fantastic. When I saw that, I liked it. I thought it was a very good move, and also connecting with the gas station. Other question I have is, as far as the machinery, I think you kind of answered it already, but I just want to clarify. It looks like on the elevation that most of the, as far as the engine and machinery and all that, is going to be on the south side, kind of more away from the mobile homes that are going to be to the west.
You mean the vacuum equipment?
Any of that? I mean, as far as the what's operating the pressurized water, soaps.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is that all enclosed? All of that is
It
enclosed.
looked like it was enclosed, and it's going to be on the south side.
is,
So even
yes.
if there was something coming from that, it's going to be kind of blocked by the rest of the structure.
Typically, the equipment and the vacuums don't generate much noise because it's all enclosed. The noise that is typically from the car washes is from the blowers on the open end.
I was trying to remember from when I go through, but I wasn't recalling. So thank you.
Madam Chair, there is no retail space and a drive-through restaurant proposed for this site at all, as it says in the agenda here.
I think on the previous site plan, you had retail space and a drive-through for a fast food restaurant.
And that's what you were going to have at the north side of this
Well,
site?
it was going to be on the south side. We're replacing that with this.
Okay, gotcha. And also my question about the car wash that's proposed at Southern and Idaho. Have you had any discussion with that person that's proposing that development?
No.
And how's that going to affect your business?
No, we haven't, and it really won't affect our business. I understand that's on the other side of the freeway, and car washes aren't really destination spots. They kind of capture traffic that's driving by. So most of the users here will be heading south on Ironwood or on Ironwood.
This isn't going to be like Cobblestone over at Signal Butte then?
No, this is not like Cobblestone.
I have a quick curiosity question. On this drawing, the access comes in off of the decel lane into the car wash.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to turn right to, if you want to go in the future, to a fast food restaurant or anything. Why would it, I suppose it needs that length for the decel lane, right? I mean, instead of, what I'm trying to say is that, what do you call it?
The right in?
This thingy here.
The driveway?
Driveway, the wall where all the vegetation is.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just making that shorter so they can drive right into either the fast food place or go into the...
Well, it would be a site plan mod. We only control the south half, so we have to do what we can do
Okay.
on our half of the property. I think,
Yeah, okay, that's right, because you've got,
That would be
yeah.
her responsibility.
I don't think that this turning movement is going to be that complicated for people coming in there. It shouldn't be very prohibitive.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
there's a similar, I think it's the same company and everything, right there at Chrisman and Southern. Isn't that a Star one? And they got Burger King and all that there on the corner. It's on the, I believe it's the southeast corner. And there's like a Burger
Yes.
King, there's the car wash, and there's another one. And the entrance is very similar to that, and I've been in and out of there several times.
And the ice cream place?
yeah,
And it works
Yeah.
fairly well with this. It's a very similar setup to all this.
okay,
And I've been there several times, and it actually flows pretty well.
Okay.
Coming in and out and everything, so. And Burger King gets pretty busy there, and.
I mean, I've seen it, but I've never been in there.
But I've
so
actually
I-
been through it several times, and it actually flows pretty good, and this is very similar to that kind of layout,
Okay,
so.
I have another question, Madam Chair. What are you doing with respect to water conservation? Anything?
Do we recirculate the water? I think we recirculate all the
Okay.
water that we
Thank
use to
you.
wash the cars.
okay. Peter?
Madam Chair, so just to review, you have an agreement with the convenience store for access from Baseline through their property to get to yours, is that correct?
I hope so, because we,
Okay, me too.
good question.
So
but
is
if we're
it,
showing cross-access, we better.
is it on there's entrances, or there's access on both the east and west side? Could it be either one, or is it just one? I mean, right,
It's both.
it's both, okay. And they're good to go with this?
Well, they wanted,
Man.
they don't care.
Times have changed.
Willie? Mhm.
I'm okay with, I was just thinking about that same thing.
Well, that was sure a big discussion 15 years ago, or how long ago was that?
2012, I believe, and I think it was QT.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2015.
I know it was a big discussion.
2015?
Actually, Madam Chair, it was more recent. Mr. Terrian processed the most recent amendment in 2014, didn't he? It was a 2014 case?
Really?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
was here for that, yeah.
About that access? The big
Yes.
discussion about access off of,
It was one
Off
of the
of Baseline?
requirements of Mr. Terrier's plan development amendment, and we actually have a copy of that document in our
God,
zone.
it seems like it was ages ago. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who would like to address us? Come on down. Give us your name and address, please. You can move the microphone to.
Carol Rezavi, I live at the community that adjoins this car wash. I believe the only question that was asked previously, and I haven't heard answered, is what it would do to our water pressure as far in the community.
Okay. We can't answer you back, but we can see about finding that out.
Yeah, that was, the last meeting I went to was, they were going to address that issue, and I don't know. I thought before this meeting, but maybe it's before the city council, I'm not
Okay.
sure. But that's kind of the only question. I think people have kind of accepted the fact that it's going to happen, and, but the water pressure was an issue.
Okay, Carol, can you give, while you're standing there, your staff your address?
Oh, yes, 3700 South Ironwood Drive, number 92,
Thank
or
you.
Resavy, R-Y-S-A-V-Y. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Yes. Any further discussion? Would anyone like to ask questions of staff or,
We gotta close the public out, don't we?
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to address us? No one? I'll close the public portion and open it for discussion.
I would like to ask them if they do have that specifications for the water pressure.
Who do you want to ask that question of?
The
If
developer.
we want to bring the
Anyone
developer,
there?
that'll reopen the meeting.
In the public.
Yes, that's okay.
Any one of their technical experts.
They brought enough with them.
He said he brought some, so.
Let them earn their pay. You can come up. Come on down.
I believe it's Arizona Water is the water provider. I mean, we have to go through them, and they wouldn't allow us to put any use that would be detrimental to their system. So we also put booster pumps in on our private property to boost the water pressure for our particular use. So I don't think water pressure is going to be a problem. I mean, we wouldn't be able to put it in. Arizona Water would require us.
You got to come up here and
You gotta-
give us your name, please. Got to go on record.
Hi, I'm Reza Amrzvani with Superstar Car Wash. The water pressure, we've opened 24 of these locations here in town. We've never had an issue with water pressure with the surrounding community. We've never had that complaint. And the amount of water that we use, because we recycle majority of the water. So it's only about 12 gallons per car. And it's not that much. And it should not, with only a 2-inch meter, reduce the water pressure in any significance that anybody would notice.
And you're doing one car at a time, so you're using less water than a washing machine?
Well, per car is 12 gallons because
Yeah.
we recycle majority of the beginning portion of the wash. It's only the last 2 arches that rinses the car is fresh water.
Okay,
Yes. So
And-
it should not have, I mean, I don't have a scientific,
yeah.
qualifications to tell you, but we've never had that complaint, and we wash a lot of cars in town every day.
But just for the record, if there is a complaint from the neighbors, you would definitely look into it and find out why.
Definitely.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
yes.
So you don't have a 6-inch water line supplying water to this project?
No, 2.
6 inches. Okay,
Fire hose.
thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
would the gentleman please repeat his name for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry.
Reza, R-E-Z-A.
Okay.
Need the last name?
Yes, please.
It's A-M-I-R-R-E-Z-V-A-N-I.
And your address, please.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
I was
2625
just gonna-
East Camelback, number 362, Phoenix, 85016.
Okay, thank you. Since we called the developer back, we'll open up the public hearing portion again. Does the public have any wish to speak? Anyone? Come on, we have 2 of you here. Braden doesn't want to talk to us, so I'll close the public hearing, and we'll open it for discussion. Any discussion? None? Okay, I'll call for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so I believe before I make the motion that I have to review the findings of fact. Am I correct on that?
It's not a CUP, it's
Yeah.
just
Just
a
a regular
standard development
PD amendment.
PD amendment, so no, you don't have to go
do-
through the CUP process, no.
Great,
Okay.
great.
They
Okay.
had them in here, so we were,
Yep, I just always wonder. Okay, all right, very good. And Madam Chair, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Apache Junction City Council the approval of Plan Development Rezoning Case PZ-3-19 a request by Andy Yocums of Bo Gilbert PLLC to amend a planned development of 2.66 acres in order to facilitate a car wash user located near the northwest corner of Ironwood Drive and Baseline Avenue, subject to the following conditions of approval, which includes conditions 1 through 8 to be included as stated.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, Rudy.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanshi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair. This goes to City Council. When, Sydney? September 3rd.
I'm sorry, that's the 17th of September.
September 17th. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Okay. Make it look nice.
Yes. Make it look nice.
We'll move on to old business, which is presentation and discussion of the proposed 2020 general plan.
Commission, we are back discussing the general plan tonight. Today is the last chapter that we're going to be reviewing of the general plan. We really only have the land use element left. We made some edits to the last copy of the chapter that you had. The edits that have been made have been highlighted in yellow. Each of you should have a hard copy in front of you, and it's also located on your screen. What we changed was really the downtown mixed-use designation, allowing for high-density residential. And we also included a minimum density requirement in the downtown area. With that said, we have a part of this chapter. We have the introduction, then we have the 11 land use types noted on the first page, such as low-density residential, medium density, high density, and what those densities entail. And then we have a kind of a further explanation of those land designations and what they would look like. Specifically, the changes that we've made is, like I said, is allowing single-family development in RS4 zoning district. Right now, we don't have an RS4 zoning district, but most municipalities do. What we're trying to do is be very strategic in the development of our downtown. Right now, we really only allow multifamily, which would be apartments, townhouses, and things like that. But what we're noticing from the market is developers are wanting to come in and develop smaller lots. So, you know, our biggest our end goal in mind really for the downtown is to create a density. So by creating an RS4 lot, is a 4,000 square foot lot, would allow single family development. So with that, being able to develop in the downtown, it would further allow another residential type use within the downtown that is not limited to apartments or townhouses.
Sydney?
Commissioner McGraw.
So this redevelopment of RV manufactured homes is what this RS4 is for. If this goes away, then we can look at this single-family development.
That's correct. So the RS4 zoning district is allowed specifically for the redevelopment of the RV manufactured home parks within, let's see, this map here. And it's also, the RS4 zoning district is not allowed in the downtown core here. Okay, it would only be really allowed in the outskirts of this area, serving as a buffer between the other land uses. We are also only allowing this zoning district within this downtown redevelopment area to spark development.
Good idea.
How far, when you say just on the perimeter?
Correct, yes.
How far in would you say that you...
You know, that's a conversation that we're still having. What we have decided is that it would not be allowed anywhere in the downtown core. So, you know, the Triangle here, the Grand Hotel site, behind Sims Plaza there, around this area.
Yeah.
It's really kind of for the fringe of this, serving as a buffer between traditional land uses and then the further density of multifamily and apartments.
Okay.
I do have a question, though. Where in this schematic that you have would there be allowed such things as hotels with a restaurant and shops along with residences over the shops?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where would that be located here?
So that's noted in this page in front of you. It's downtown mixed use, and we have the B3 zoning district that would allow that type of commercial development. So it's already built into our zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So we are including that that zoning designation within that land use.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Yeah, Rudy, where was it a couple years ago? They had something before city council about building businesses and residential over top. It was right down here off the trail.
Yes, ma'am.
Where was that? Exactly.
Well, a couple of different developers have looked at the possibility of maybe the old Grand Hotel site. And then there was also some discussion about some of the vacant properties on the east side of Idaho, north of what is now the Fries.
Okay.
So there were discussions about possibly trying to apply that kind of development in those areas.
Well, I know, that's what I was just saying for Shirley. They've already looked at that for trying to bring that in, and nobody's gone for it so far. So.
That would be within the context of mixed use.
Not yet. But that's not limited from being in the downtown.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Nobody?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sydney? Or Rudy? Who owns the property where that, the old Grand Hotel used to be? Is that AJ's?
No, I believe it's still owned by the California Consortium. The gentleman I can't remember the name of the LLC, but the gentleman that we commonly refer to as the owner is a gentleman named Herb Madden.
That's correct.
And they also own other parts of the old downtown. At one time, they owned about close to 100 acres. Now they may be down to 50, 60, but it's still that same group.
So they're still active with us as far as?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner McGraw, that landowner owns the Grand Hotel site, this site in front of you that I'm scrolling here, and the mouse here, and then some land here north.
Thank you.
Okay. Right up by the roundabout. He owns, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then just wrapping up the chapter, we have a few planning considerations. It talks about unplanned vacant land. We have only a small area left to develop within our city boundary. It also talks about the expansion of our city boundary due to the annexation of the 6,700 acres. It also speaks about how Gold Canyon can help our commercial and retail tax base by us being strategic in the development of commercial areas along US 60. And then, of course, we have the goals and policies.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is kind of a sidebar question, Sydney, but after the application with U-Haul and dealing with that land there, has there been any interest in that light industrial, or are we still going through the 50 acres that were there that we were?
We spoke to them, it's probably been about 3 months now. We had an extensive conversation about the U-Haul submittal and the industrial subdivision submittal. We are expecting it, hopefully sooner rather than later. And actually, we did get a call maybe about 3 weeks ago about how they were thinking of configuring the industrial subdivision. So that work is still ongoing.
Okay, yeah, because it seemed like we were given the impression that there's a real demand for light industrial, so I was hoping that we would see some Back to
We
you.
had an email about it today, as a matter of fact. So,
All right,
Okay,
at least
good.
it's still moving. Okay.
Dutch Brothers is going strong.
The
Is
what?
there
Oh,
something
that's
going
probably,
on? I haven't been down there. I don't,
yeah. They leveled,
I haven't.
raised the whole property.
They've
Yeah, I
got
know that.
They've got that property all
That's right.
leveled off, and
Yeah.
probably very soon they will be, because they want to open up
Well,
first
wait.
quarter.
That's right.
Before we just make discussion, we need to stick on our agenda.
I know.
So, Commission,
And-
with that said, staff is in support of kind of the historical planning effort in keeping this downtown mixed-use designation here in front of you as shown in the purple. But part of the general plan process is that we have to provide land alternatives. This map in front of you, you haven't seen yet, but we have met as a staff, both at the planning level and executive staff, and talked about the possibility of having medium-density residential in our downtown planning area, due to the interest that we have been getting probably in the past 24 months or so. So we've had a couple developers come in and wanting to develop bigger lots in the downtown areas, bigger than the RS4 zoning district. And we've had conversations of, perhaps that wasn't our preference. Our preference would be more of a density use there. So that's why we were being strategic in still accommodating a single-family development, but by limiting those lot sizes by 4,000 square feet. So
That brings up a question in my mind when you were just saying that is, does developers want to do that just because land is cheaper out this way? To maybe they can put a house on a bigger lot here in the downtown than they could, say, in Mesa or something? Do you think that's?
yeah, absolutely, Madam Chair. Land here in town is cheaper than in Mesa. The conversations that we've had with developers in the past is, it's adjacent to Fry's. It's adjacent to other commercial development, so that's why they would like to locate there. But there are other parts of the city that development would be more than welcomed.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes,
Wilson?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, I realize this is kind of more ethereal as a question, but when we're looking at this map and the possibility of creating more higher density areas, I would hope that the city still does recognize the importance of maintaining those low density more rural areas, because that's a part of this heritage of this town and city, and I hope that we just don't have that urban sprawl that eventually starts to try and eat that up.
Absolutely, Commissioner Heck, we are totally aware of that, and that is why we are only allowing the RS4 zoning district within this downtown planning area and not anywhere else in the city, because we recognize the importance of our history, our development history here.
Okay, good. Is that it? Anybody? Willie? Nothing? Okay. Thank you. So, let me get back here. Where am I? No new business, Rudy?
No, ma'am.
Information and reports?
None this evening, Madam Chair.
Okay, director's report?
Hope to have Larry back here within a couple of weeks. His progress is good.
Okay.
He has taken mile and a half walks, so waiting for his doctor to clear him. And we hope to welcome him back maybe, possibly, don't quote me on this, as early as next week.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. Boy. All right, selection of meeting dates, times, location, and purpose.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a regular meeting on September 10th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, Rudy.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. I'll adjourn this meeting at 8:12 p.m., unless anyone has any objections.